This is episode number 18 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast with our guest, Caitlin Barth. Welcome to the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. My name is Jeff Thornton, alongside my co-host, Michael Anders. Each week, we bring you an inspiring person or message related to our 4 pillars of success: manifestation, business, fitness, and nutrition. Thank you for allowing us to join you on your journey. Now let's get started.
What up, what up? Feed Me, Fuel Me, episode number 18. Mike Andrews here with my co-host, Jeff Thornton, and our special guest, Caitlin Barth, coach extraordinaire at CrossFit PHX. How are we doing this morning?
Fantastic. Coach extraordinaire, that's a great title. Can we change that on the website, too?
You should put that on a business card.
Perfect.
No doubt. We'll definitely do that. That'll be the next edition of the PHX website.
I'm ready to see that right now.
Head coach, assistant head coach, coach extraordinaire.
Yes.
Boom. So today we're going to talk about being vegan.
Being vegan.
Veganism, is that a word?
Veganism is a word.
Okay, good,
yes.
good. And apparently there's levels to being vegan.
There are many levels.
So I really
want
want to dive into that. But before we go any further, super interested in your journey up to this point. What brought you to CrossFit, how you became a coach, and then ultimately what committed you to being vegan. So if you want to touch on all of that.
Sure. So I started CrossFit in 2012, in late 2012, at a box up north of here, which has since changed ownership. But it was really the only workout that inspired me to keep going. I had done some high intensity interval training. I had worked out at a great gym in Chandler for several years, but was just kind of looking for something different, more weightlifting driven, I guess. And so that ultimately led me to CrossFit. And then when I moved back down to Chandler from Scottsdale, I couldn't find a CrossFit gym down there that I liked. And one of my friends who I worked with at the restaurant brought me to your gym. So that's kind of where it all started. So I've been with you guys for almost 3 years now. Mm-hmm. And as far as coaching, I mean, I didn't take CrossFit seriously probably until I got to your gym and, didn't really quite get it. Like the light bulb hadn't come on yet. And so, about almost a year into it, I think is when I first started talking to you about competing and then ultimately coaching. Yep. And you had started an internship program at that point, but it wasn't as fine-tuned as it is now. So I like to think of myself as kind of like a guinea pig for that. Very much so. Yeah. So ended up in the internship program. I interned for several months, kind of slowly but surely started coaching my own classes and ultimately took over the noon classes. And that's where I fit now, which is great. I love my nooners because I feel like they're on my level where it's you just need a break in the middle of the day and come work out. Because that was always my class before I was actually coaching. So, and then as far as veganism, since getting to your gym, since again, the light bulb came on, I cared a lot more about my nutrition, and I had been looking at macros and just different ways to kind of fine tune everything. And it was definitely an aesthetics driven thing. I wanted to look a certain way. And then also still lift a certain way.
You take a lot of pride in people telling you look like Christmas Abbott.
I do take a lot of pride in that. I do. And then I met her and I'm like, oh my God, you're even smaller and buffer than I thought you were.
Side note, real quick. This girl, after Rush Club.
Oh, fangirl so hard.
So hilarious. Really? Oh, Christmas came in, was a guest MC at Rush Club. Mm-hmm. And, Caitlin comes out with the crew, and afterwards everybody's in the back having drinks and stuff like that. And, Christmas is making her appearance and taking pictures and answering questions and doing all this stuff, right? So I go over to Christmas and, we're sitting there shooting the shit, whatever. And I see Caitlin out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, oh, you've got to meet this girl.
He set me up.
Put her on blast, man. Christmas comes over, and Christmas loves tattoos, man. She's all about the ink, right? Grabs her by her wrist, and she's like, oh, my God, you've got such great work.
First thing, just grabs my arm, and I'm just like, just like dumbfounded, like, thank you. Like, I didn't even know what to say.
If you could have seen this girl in the
Just in
moment,
shock.
I almost pissed myself laughing. It was so
Oh my
funny.
God. Because before she even said hi to anybody, she just reaches over and grabs my arm, and I'm like, oh my God.
Frozen.
Just completely stunned.
Deer in headlights.
Oh, man.
She was so nice.
I'm like, say hello, do something. Yeah.
She was awesome. But no, I definitely take pride in, you know, being strong and encouraging other people that, you know, even though you're a small person, you can still be, you know, buff or yoked, as some people like to say, I guess.
Sure.
So that was kind of where my nutrition journey started. And I've fallen on and off the wagon as far as like counting macros and you know, I work at a bar, so my schedule isn't, you know, perfectly fit always for like 3 meals a day. I'm lucky if I have like 2 full meals. And then veganism started purely from a moral standpoint. I've always been a huge animal lover. And my best friend will tell you that I've talked on and on about like vegan vegetarianism for a couple years now, and never really felt like I could fully take the plunge, partially because of being an athlete. And one morning I literally woke up and I was just like, I'm not eating animal products anymore. Like it was like a light came on again, like another light came on, you know? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've been vegan for 4 months now. I feel fantastic. I don't think my performance has suffered at all. I don't necessarily feel like it's gotten better per se, but I definitely don't feel like it's suffered. Mm-hmm. I feel more energized. I think the biggest difference is I was such a huge napper for so long. Like I would love going home and taking naps.
Sure.
And I think I've taken a total of 2 naps in the last 4 months. Like I just don't need it. Like really? I'll even lay down with the intention of like resting.
Yeah.
And I'll never fully enter sleep. Like
That's
I'll just kind of lay there with my eyes closed and like, you know, listen to whatever background noise is happening. It's more like just like resting my eyes more than anything else.
See, I feel like you're so deprived right now because I love naps.
I was such a huge, I loved naps.
What are those?
Ryan would always be, one of my friends would always be like, maybe if you took less naps during the day, you could get more stuff done. And I'm like,
well, that's partially
and
true.
now I'm like, I don't even take naps anymore. So that's not even an argument anymore. I get so much stuff done. I'm so productive.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Do you find, I know a lot of people who've done vegan, have you seen a change in like your skin? Like a lot of people say like their skin radiates more once they do switch from, you know, proteins to just vegan.
I haven't personally noticed it. I've never really had an issue with my skin, so that wouldn't be something that I think I would notice drastically. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the energy thing has been the biggest thing that I've noticed. And then just all in all, like I think as women, a lot of us suffer from like what we'll call like fat days, like where you just wake up and you're like, oh, I feel like crap today. Mm-hmm. And, you know, even though you put your clothes on and they still fit the same, you're just like, no, I feel like gross today. I don't have any of those days anymore either.
Damn, that's good. Like
I just feel great every day. And any sort of nitpicking I do is my own like mental nitpicking. It's like, oh, like I could do this better. But then I always go back to just like my base experience, meaning like if I wanted to fix that, I could.
Right.
And sometimes I just choose not to. Mm-hmm. So.
What nutritionally, what are some of the, not concessions, what are some of the modifications that you had to make? Because obviously you can't go without protein.
Right.
So what do you do? Because now you obviously have to supplement for it. What do you do to maintain your protein intake at this point? So
a huge thing is I have a plant-based protein powder. Mm-hmm. That is excellent. One of the girls at the gym hooked me up with it, and it's definitely the best tasting one that I've had. It's the Nutrisuma pea protein.
I was about to say, go ahead and give them a plug.
Okay, I will. Yeah, it's the Nutrisuma. Not the pea protein that comes in like the silver and black package. It's like the compostable like brown package. Okay. I forget what the specific name of it is, but that one definitely tastes the best, and it's got like somewhere between 20 and 30 grams of protein in it. So I try to have at least one of those shakes a day. As far as other protein supplements, you know, I eat tofu. I've experimented with like tempeh, which is another fermented soy product. I try not to do too much soy. I try to get my protein just from the natural proteins that are in a lot more than you would think they're in.
Like beans and stuff like that?
Yeah, beans. I do a lot of beans. A lot of vegetables have proteins in them as well. Obviously, there are different proteins. You're not getting always the full, 9 amino acids, whatever it is that we're supposed to have. So I take a B12 supplement when I remember. I don't even remember all the time to take it. But what's really incredible about our bodies is, so I've been a meat eater for 27 years up until the last 4 months. And your body will hold on to B12. So the only way to really find out if you're deficient in things would be to have a blood panel done, which I haven't done. But yeah, those are my main supplementations.
B12 and
B12 and then the
protein.
the pea protein.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
on.
Those are the main supplements that I take.
And then I think something that goes unnoticed in the vegan conversation is where most of us carnivores are, we become easily satiated by by breaking down mass amounts of protein via chicken, fish, and beef, and kind of skimp on our carbohydrate intake. And what a lot of people don't know, because the buzzword in the industry right now is macros, protein, carbohydrate, and fat. Nobody really pays attention to what does a ton of the work, and that's micronutrients. Those are your vitamins and minerals. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, where vegans have a leg up on people who eat meat is you guys are purposely driving the micronutrient train, whereas the rest of us are out here just trying to get fed and focus on bigger level processes such as protein synthesis and changing our body composition and whatnot. But what drives a lot of that and really facilitates digestion and the processing of all those macronutrients is micronutrients. So have you dove into the science of what you're doing to your body?
So there's been a little bit, actually, to kind of rewind a little bit. So when I went vegan with no knowledge.
Okay.
It was just purely from a moral standpoint. So in the last 4 months, it has really been where I've done my education.
Right.
I've, watched documentaries, read some books, get online, kind of see what's out there. And obviously a huge part of that in being an athlete was making sure that I'm getting the proper nutrition. And as far as the science behind it, no, I'm not well versed in that. But there are things that I purposefully take. Like, for example, obviously I can't take fish oil.
Right.
But those omega-3s and those fatty acids are, they're anti-inflammatories naturally, which is huge. Obviously, they're all the cancer fighting, free radicals, whatever you'd like to call it.
Where do you find those now?
So flax seeds are a huge thing in veganism. Flaxseed oil, chia seeds. They also act as great egg replacers. So they're a binding agent. So if you're making vegan burgers or vegan meatballs, whatever it is, they act as a great binding agent, but they also provide that extra micronutrient. And then if I ever feel like crap, I just eat a bunch of spinach.
There you go.
I'll just throw a bunch of spinach in a shake or kale, whatever sort of blend we have at the house. There's another great supplement, the green superfood. It's literally just called green superfood. I cannot remember the exact brand of it. They sell it everywhere, really. But that's great too, because you're knocking out all of the things that you would normally be getting from vegetables in just one scoop. And it doesn't always taste fantastic. Sure. But you just cover that up with, vanilla protein and things like that. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So have you become quite the juicer?
No, I don't drink juice. I don't
Really?
eat fruit. That's not my thing.
Why?
It just never has been. I've never been a huge fruit eater. Okay, so the whole reason I stopped drinking juice, I remember so specifically, I was like sitting at my parents' counter eating a bagel with cream cheese, and then I was drinking apple juice with it.
This is obviously before you were vegan.
Yes, yeah, it is. Though I do have vegan cream cheese, and it works. It does the job. So I'm like eating this, and all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. I drink this glass of apple juice, and I immediately puke up the entire bagel. So I pretty much quit drinking juice after that.
A traumatic experience.
I had a traumatic experience.
No more juice.
No, and so I don't do it. Yeah, I'm not a huge juicer. I don't love juice. I don't eat a lot of fruit. Like I'll read, different Instagram posts or whatever of like vegans who eat like 10 bananas a day. I'm like, that's a lot of fucking bananas.
Seen that.
Like,
I've seen that, yeah.
I'm like, that's
a lot of
so
bananas.
many bananas. Like, why is that necessary?
I don't know if I'd be able to train with 10 bananas in my system.
Oh my God. And like, so Dominic Thompson, who's like a really big, I guess, vegan poster child guy. He like posted a picture of himself the other day with like 6 watermelons in his grocery cart.
No way.
And I guess the cashier asked him like, "Oh, are you gonna eat all those?" He's like, "I'll be back for more tomorrow." Like, people eat a shit ton of fruit in this world,
right?
And
yeah.
I've just never been a huge fruit eater.
Well, I mean, with respect to carbohydrate intake and whatnot, those are fruit would constitute a simple sugar. Super easy to process.
Yeah, and I'd rather eat French fries.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I get that.
I would just rather eat French fries.
And but it's also got a ton of fiber in it. So like I get that.
Yeah.
Kind of
See, and that's where like my greens come in. I eat so much broccoli. I eat again a lot of spinach. Like, I'm not hurting for fiber at all, which is good. Like that's a great thing, and that's definitely been something that I've noticed too that Chaz told me not to talk about.
Really? Let's go dive into
that.
Yeah,
let's get into that.
I was gonna
Chaz is like,
ask.
don't talk about that.
So I mean, how have you found yourself to be way more regular?
Oh my, constantly, all the time.
Yeah,
it's great.
Like
I feel fantastic.
3, 4, 5 times a day.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't get it. Like that's how it should be.
Yes, and it's awesome, and it's definitely like I wouldn't say I was necessarily like horribly irregular before, but I'm like so much more so now.
Yeah.
Which is great. And again, and I think that kind of ties into what I was saying before about like not having like fat days. It's just like everything just moves.
See,
it's awesome.
That's nice, because I even talked to Voight last night, and because I eat a lot of meat. I eat a crap load of meat. And I just tell him, I was like, dude, I just feel freaking heavy. You know what I mean? Just your stomach hurts, and you just like it hurts to move. Like you feel bloated. I was gonna ask, like, did you see like a major change? Was it instant? Was it within a week or?
I would say probably within a week.
Yeah.
I've always told people too, like if I have friends who are like, oh, like I feel super heavy, I'm like, eat a bag of broccoli in like 24 hours.
Right.
Like don't eat it all at once, because that would be horrible. Eat it over the course of 24 hours.
Rip your guts apart.
And things will just naturally start moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely all those cruciferous vegetables are very helpul.
Good word, cruciferous.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a somewhat educated person.
Would you? How long did it? Because this is something for the people that are, the chronic dieters and stuff like that. How long did it take after? Number one, how long did it take you to commit? Like, get you past that point where it sounded like a good idea and turned into a lifestyle, and then since that, when did you what's the question I'm gonna ask you? So how long did it take you to like full on commit to being vegan, and then when did you realize, or how long did it take your body to like feel normal again? Because I'm sure you had some growing pains. Yeah. In there somewhere.
I would say, as far as committing, like I said, like I woke up one day and was just like, I'm not doing it anymore.
Right.
And it was my my baby sister's graduation weekend, and I think my brother's girlfriend had mentioned something that she was interested in it, because she's also a huge animal lover, just from like a moral standpoint. And so in just talking about it more, I would just tell people I like started reading too much, like in literally this short, like over this weekend, right? Just like started reading too much and like looking on the internet too much. Like I literally Googled like how to be vegan, and there's a whole website that'll tell you how to do it. And then, yeah, woke up like 2 days later and was just like, yeah, I'm going to commit to it. And as far as like feeling normal, I'd say a week-ish.
Really?
Probably.
That fast?
Yeah. What's nice, and I have a girlfriend who lives out in San Diego who's a vegetarian, and she has been vegan-vegetarian for probably 10 to 15 years, I would say. And so I talked to her pretty quickly, reached out to her, and she's like, you like are so lucky you're doing it now because the alternatives, like the meat alternatives, the cheese alternatives, the milk alternatives are all so much better now and have come so far.
Oh, as opposed to like 10 years
As opposed
ago.
to like 10, 15 years ago. I mean, you hear like horror stories about like tofurkey and things like that, whereas like I've had tofurkey and it's not terrible. Honestly, it tastes like a Slim Jim, which Slim Jims probably aren't made of meat anyway. So
I've had some pretty disgusting like vegan alternatives.
There are gross ones still that exist for sure. But yeah, it's just nice because that whole industry has come really far.
Sure.
Which I think, you know, from like a big picture standpoint speaks to, hopefully, fingers crossed, the market shifting a little bit to providing more of those alternatives. I mean, I walked into Fry's and found vegan dressing, like honey mustard dressing and like ranch dressing, which wouldn't have existed probably like 5 years ago.
Right.
So that's really cool that like all the supermarket chains are a lot more, they provide a lot more of those alternatives now probably than they did before.
Right on. Well, whatever you're doing, you must be doing it right, because I talk to your roommates every day, and they talk about the latest and greatest kitchen concoction that we just had vegan French fries, or vegan burgers, vegan hot dogs, vegan this, vegan that. And it was delicious.
The lasagna has been my favorite so far.
In my mind, I'm like, no way.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because there's this overarching like gross.
I've
like it has to be gross.
I've had, because I really don't like to talk down on anything that A, I haven't tried, or B, I'm not somewhat educated about. Sure. At a baseline level, and I've had so many horrible vegetarian / vegan experiences because they take these vegan spin-offs of quote unquote normal food and they ruin it.
Right. Yeah.
It's either super bland, or they try to cover up how terrible it tastes on its own by overcompensating with spices and sauces and stuff like that. So they swing the pendulum too far to the left.
Sure.
Those have been some of my experiences up to this point, but there's obviously, just like, CrossFit, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And,
absolutely.
Which brings me to my next question. These levels that you were talking about.
The levels of veganism.
The levels of veganism, because I did not know
there are
that
levels.
If you're like a devout vegan, we'll call it.
Yeah.
The Roman Catholic of veganism. You can't even wear Birkenstocks because they've got leather on the shoe.
Yeah.
No way.
Just learned that this morning, bro.
There are levels to veganism.
So are there like no shit documented tiers? Like, I'm a level 1 vegan.
No, there are definitely not documented tiers, but
I got vegan shoes.
So there are vegan shoes. There are literally whole businesses that are dedicated to making like leather alternatives and like stylish, vegan shoes or whatever. Vegan, like that word sucks. Like, I'm sorry. And I love it so much, but it has such a negative connotation.
Right.
And it's so funny to me because I get people ask me like, oh, is ketchup vegan? Ketchup is fucking ketchup. It's made of tomatoes and vinegar and sugar. Like, yes, that's my answer. But it's like, vegetables are vegan. Do you eat fucking vegetables? Like, you're eating vegan food. Congratulations. Like, right. I feel like that, oh, God, that word. I wish there was another word. But anyway, yes, there are levels to veganism. So there are like raw vegans, people who only eat raw food. They do not cook their food.
Okay.
Because they find that like the nutrients in the food are best when it is in its raw state.
I would
it's
agree
most
with that
beneficial
to a certain extent.
Exactly. So
would that be the most extreme? Nutritionally, we won't even dive into
nutritionally.
the hippie
Yeah,
shit.
Nutritionally, that would probably be the most extreme. Is the complete raw. I mean, and there are. I don't know. I guess I look at like as far as like groups of people, like PETA would probably be like the highest of the vegans, you know, where, as Rachel would call them, the bra burning vegans.
Okay.
That's like, that's the term that we've come up with, is like the bra burning vegans.
The violent femmes.
Oh, yes, which is horrible, but my feminism is a topic for another day. So yeah, and obviously, once you dive into veganism and you are, you know, not eating animal products anymore, then you look at your whole world and you're like, well, shit, like what else is made out of animals or tested on animals or, you know, has animal product in it, whatever it is. So,
so what's the next step down from a raw vegan?
Someone who doesn't probably use, I mean, I think there are a lot of like crossovers. Because I don't think I'll ever be a raw vegan because I love cooking. Like I love cooking food. But I definitely try to incorporate, you know, raw veggies in here and there. Definitely not as much as I eat cooked food, but I'll eat cucumbers and hummus or carrots and hummus just as they are, and that's fine. But you start to like look at your whole world and you're like, okay, so the way that I look at it is I have leather goods and I already had leather goods.
Right.
Leather is a sustainable product. It's something that will last for a long time.
Got it. So not as many cows have to be sacrificed for your belt.
Well, I guess, yes. But also, I would rather utilize the leather goods that I already have, not buy new ones necessarily. Like, now that I'm in this lifestyle, I don't want to participate in that anymore. But the ones that I already do have, I'm not going to throw them away.
But you do have nice shit. You
to replace them. Well, I don't want to replace them with plastic products that are not sustainable.
Sure. Okay.
So I think it comes from a level like, so the very basic is like you're eating.
Okay.
So eating would be the most basic level of veganism, just changing your diet.
Everything else is the same.
And then as far as diet goes, the raw would be the most extreme of that. And then, you know, the next level again is looking at all of your goods and services and okay, what of those participate in you know, animal testing, whatever it is. Like I've had to look at my shampoo, my shaving cream, toothpaste. Like,
so you don't use glue because it's made out of horse hooves.
Yes, I mean I haven't had a need to use glue in the last 4 months, so I guess I'm sure you could find glue that's not made of horse hooves. But yeah, so I just started looking at like, okay, well these are my products and like what can I do to you know, be better about that imprint. Right. So you know, even coming down to like makeup and stuff, like obviously I'm a woman and I wear makeup here and there, and trying to make sure that my makeup doesn't test on animals, especially. Okay. So there are a lot of big makeup brands and it's hard too, because you start to like do research on it and you're like, holy shit, like L'Oreal owns everything and they test on animals. And I'm just like, oh God, I can't buy this or this or this, which is fine. It becomes, it definitely doesn't feel like a sacrifice. I don't feel like I'm giving anything up. I feel like I'm doing my best in this one life that I have on this planet to, you know, not leave a horrible, huge carbon footprint. You know, I already have for the last 27 years. So, like, what can I do now to just do better? Right. And I definitely wouldn't say that I'm, you know, you guys know, like, I don't post on Instagram and all that stuff. Like, that's not my prerogative. Sure. But I feel like since I've gone vegan, our household, obviously I live with 3 other people, 3 fully grown adults who eat all the time. Right. I feel like our consumption of meat and animal products has drastically gone down. Sure. Is that, which has been really nice for me because it's like, okay, like I'm not going to fault you for eating meat or eggs or whatever you choose to still eat, but at least the consumption has gone down. And that would be my... Is that more so based on your influence or more so a concession they're making for you? Do you guys have like do you guys have more of a bohemian lifestyle where if you're in the kitchen cooking, you're cooking for everybody? Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. And then on top of that, it's nice because, you know, Caleb isn't huge into dairy, so the alternatives work for him too, as far as buying like, I have like vegan sour cream, vegan cream cheese, like vegan mayonnaise, all that kind of stuff. So, and I'm like, if it's there, use it. Like, they use the dressings that I have. I only buy vegan ranch. Like, we've been buying almond milk forever, so that's never been an issue. But there's definitely like less egg consumption, less butter consumption because the butter that I buy is vegan. So more so I'm just like, hey, I'm fucking shopping. So this is what I'm buying.
Right.
If you want anything different, let me know. And like, you know, I can do that.
Right.
I've bought Rachel normal ice cream. You know, it's not going to kill me.
Yeah. When it comes to shopping and stuff, did you find the price of your grocery has gone up, or has it drastically increased or decreased in your standpoint?
I would say it's decreased. Tofu's really cheap.
Yeah.
So it's way cheaper than meat. And when I was still buying meat, I was trying to buy the best quality possible.
Mm-hmm. Like 80-20, 90-10?
Like where the meat comes from.
Oh.
Yeah. As far as
Grass-fed.
Yes. So it
Yep.
was, so that was always going to be more expensive just because that's the nature of that particular industry. But produce is cheap. Grains are cheap. And I think where people misinterpret how expensive veganism is because of the meat alternatives, because those are always going to be more expensive. Like they're a processed food. It would be the same as if you're buying, you know, a pound of ground beef or a pound of chicken or whatever it is you're buying. Like those things are always going to be more expensive than if you're just buying vegetables and grains, because that's the majority of my diet anyway. Cans of beans are like $1 a piece,
right?
You know, so
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't have to be expensive. I think that there's this overarching like thought that it is, and it's not.
See, because I think that's where my lack of knowledge on veganism comes from, is that when somebody says they're vegan, I'm thinking like, okay, they're Whole Foods, Sprouts, you know,
Yeah.
like, and you think of shopping at those places, you're like, good God, like,
Oh yeah,
you buy a pound of meat, it's like $200.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's just my lack of knowledge. But that's interesting to understand.
I mean, Whole Foods is always going to be more expensive. That's just that is that business.
That's their niche.
But at the same, dude, I'm like a kid in a candy store in Whole Foods. I'm just like, everything in here is so great.
Right.
I'm very lucky that there's not one closer to me.
Oh,
If they
about to
build
be.
that one at freaking Papago Park, I'm gonna be screwed. I'm gonna be there all the time.
Bank account drained.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
really.
And I mean, Sprouts is reasonable. Fry's is reasonable. I love Trader Joe's, but that's a little far too. Like that's outside of my like normal shopping realm.
Your circle.
Yeah, it's outside of my
Your
circle. My little 5-mile bubble. So yeah, it definitely can be expensive, but I think that is more so driven towards, and honestly too, it's that initial investment. Like if you're committing to a diet, any sort of diet, what's the first thing you're going to do is to go out and buy all that shit that you need to support that diet. So yeah, the initial investment is a little expensive. Like I would say, like when I did buy like the cream cheese, the mayonnaise, like all that stuff, like, you know, that's $4 and $5 a piece versus, you know, a red pepper, an organic red pepper is like $1.
Right.
So it's that initial investment, I think, that's a little expensive. But once you have it, you know, you have it.
Right.
It's part of your pantry now.
Right.
So
And I tell people, like, when you're jumping on diets, or like you mentioned, either you pay for it now or you pay for it later.
Yeah.
Because if you don't eat the way you want to eat now, you're going to be paying the medical bills because your system's all fucked up down the road. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think it's interesting that your commitment, it's not just one of those things like, oh, I just want to dabble in it. You just dove right in and, you know, just got the train going. I think that's the most important part of doing anything.
Yeah.
Is that you just make that initial commitment. It's like, there's no, I'm going to start on a Monday. Then you know that Monday comes. And
Right.
it's like, that date just keeps going back.
yeah, I think my day was a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
See? Yeah.
It was just like random where it's just like, oh, come on. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool.
See, the
Good.
day doesn't matter. You're just like, you had a
Yeah.
purpose and you just fulfilled it. That's what's awesome.
It's definitely been, as far as like commitments go, besides CrossFit, and even CrossFit, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to work out today. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes you just have those days. Whereas with veganism, I'm just like, no, this is my life every single day.
That's cool.
And like, I mean, I guess to backpedal a little bit, like I love CrossFit every day, but I don't always like want to do it every day.
Right.
I love coaching it every day. Like I love all those aspects of it, but sometimes I'm just like, I'm tired and I don't want to exercise. But if I want to eat, like that's what I'm eating.
Right.
Which just is what it is.
And when you switch to vegan, how's because you did macronutrients, you did all the counting. How is it when you eat it? Because it's a lot of volume, I imagine.
Sure.
Do you worry about the portion size now? Is that a big issue? Or
Honestly, so I haven't tracked it all since being vegan. As far as portions, I mean, I don't think I worried that much about it before either.
Really?
But I definitely try to make sure that I'm eating greens, that I'm getting protein, that I'm getting micronutrients. I think too, a big misconception about just our diet in general is I think there's a misconception of how much protein we should be consuming. And, that could be a whole tangent about the industry and the factory farming industry and how that drives it. And that's what we're spending our money on because we need 150 grams of protein a day. I don't think that that's real. Just in my own research and my own experience.
If you were eating 150 grams of protein a day, you'd be massive.
Yeah, it'd be a lot. But there are people out there who eat like that.
You're not a big person.
No. There are people out there who eat like that. And you think about it from like a big picture standpoint. You're like, okay, what's driving that? Well, obviously the people who are getting paid are driving that. So I don't worry necessarily about my consumption. Like I try to make sure that I eat something other than French fries. Well, I love French fries.
I think that's such an awesome point though, because, I always use Nicole, my wife, as an example, because she measures everything, right? And I've never measured anything. And I think that, it works for both camps, and depending on what side of the fence you're on, either it does or it doesn't.
Right.
I recommend that you give both a shot and just see, how in tune you can become with your body. And then, where measuring is awesome is that you don't have to do it forever.
Right.
Because, once it becomes part of who you are, you can start to eyeball stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
So I wouldn't go as far as to say you need to measure everything all the time.
Right.
However, for me, it just, eating based on sound principles has facilitated my nutritional success. Instead of getting bogged down in the numbers, it's a lot easier to just know what kind of food you should be eating.
Right.
And then eating when you feel hungry.
Yep.
And if you're eating the right kinds of food, and getting, proper macro and micronutrient intake, your body will take care of the rest.
Right.
Your body is an amazing thing.
Yeah. And the adaptability of the human body is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And if you're, if you've got, the big three, you're training, you're getting proper recovery and rest, and your nutrition is on point, everything kind of falls into place. You don't have to worry so much about the numbers and focus. You get to focus more on the enjoyable stuff, like, how do I make this taste good? Or,
right.
Or, where can I, sprinkle in some variety and change things up and not completely collapse the system. So I love the fact that you're not a tracker, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're you eat based on sound principles and you still manage to be successful. Because I think a lot of people, when they make this lifestyle change or take on a new diet, it's super overwhelming. Even at this stage in my fitness career, I find it overwhelming to sit there and like, okay, you're going to, count all these numbers and you have to stick to these macros and blah, 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 blah. And, depending on how you're training from one day to the next, those ratios will change. So I think, the way that you're doing it is awesome because you really get to just listen to your body. Yeah. And, do what needs to be done within the confines of being vegan.
Right.
I think that's awesome.
Well, thank you. I definitely still eat like an asshole sometimes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I definitely have had Taco Bell 5 times in the last 2 weeks.
So tell me why Taco Bell is vegan, because I think it's fucking awesome.
They don't put any lard in their beans. So their refried beans have no lard in them. So I get like a bean burrito with no cheese. So it's got like the onions and stuff in there. And then I do the 7-layer burrito with no sour cream or cheese. So it's only a 5-layer burrito, really.
Boom. Message to the masses. Taco Bell is vegan.
Yes. It's definitely, I would say, as far as fast food, besides like Chipotle, like true drive-through fast food, it's definitely the easiest. Because everywhere else, it's like Wendy's, I guess you could get like a baked potato or something like that. But it's the most satisfying, other than like just eating French fries.
Okay.
Which I also do a lot.
That's what we're going to title this show. Taco Bell is vegan. Write that down.
Taco Bell is vegan. Or they can be. You can Google anything and find out what options they have, which is awesome.
Sure. So we'll cut you loose on that note. But so real quick before we get out of here, tell us what's one thing that you do to feed yourself every day, mentally, physically, spiritually, and one thing that you do to fuel yourself every day. Like, what's part of your daily routine that makes you who you are?
I guess, can I answer both the questions with one thing?
Sure.
I read every day.
Okay.
So no matter what it is, no matter in what context it is, like I make sure that I'm reading every day. Like I love reading books, and Chaz will tell you that I'm super annoying when I read books because I'll read them nonstop for 24 hours until I finish them.
Okay.
But in, being out of school, and I've been out of school for a few years now, I just try to make sure that I'm always reading something, like whether it's an article about, I don't necessarily care about politics, but if it's something about the election, like I'll read that. If it's, even something as like silly as fashion trends, I'll read that. I would say more often than not, it is some sort of like educational thing. Like I try to like educate myself every day a little bit. But it doesn't always necessarily have to fall into that category. Sure. Because it's going to fuel me no matter what. Like right. I've learned something new no matter what genre that falls right. into.
What book are you reading right now?
I just finished Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran. I cannot remember his last name.
Okay.
I would say in general, that book is a great read, whether you want to be vegan or vegetarian or not, just because it's very educational, and it puts a different spin on things. It talks about a lot of the social norms of eating and why being a vegan or vegetarian can disrupt that. And I think that's why in general people are so uncomfortable with veganism, is just the social disruption. But the whole like start of the book is like his son was going to be born, and he was like, okay, I want to learn about like what I'm going to be putting into my son's body for the next 18 years of his life. So he went on this like 3-year research thing. Obviously the son was born in the interim. And learned all about the farming industry and, the good and the bad and the ugly of it. And so that was very educational for me. And I felt like it's pretty unbiased.
Okay.
It's not like watching like Earthlings.
Sure.
Which I have not watched because I will cry forever if I watch that.
And then before we get out here, where's a place where the community can support you, follow you, like either social media,
sure,
your mission, whatever it is, like.
I'm at CrossFit PHX every day if you want to come hang out with me at noon. As far as Instagram, I am at Caitlin Barth. It's CAITLINBARF. I'm not as good as posting as I'd like to be, but it's fun. You see my family and the day in and day out, and my dumb boyfriend sometimes. He's pretty cool.
It's authentic.
Yeah, it's pretty authentic. Yeah, and then if you ever want to come eat a steak, which is really ironic, I work up at Dominic's at the Scottsdale Quarter. I bartend there, so
nice.
Can always come have a drink.
Boom.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to ask one more question.
Okay.
I know this is down the road for you. However, based on what you know now, 4 months in, would you raise your child vegan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So to asterisk, I will raise my child vegan as long as they cannot make decisions for themselves. Once he or she, once they're like 5, let's say, and they go have a sleepover at a friend's house or something, and that person is serving pizza with pepperoni, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I don't want to discourage them from trying anything, but I'm definitely going to, let them know, like, this is why we don't eat this way. Mm-hmm. And in a non-graphic way,
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely, I would.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for joining us today, Caitlin. It was awesome having you.
I'm sweaty. I'm so sweaty.
Be sure to follow her on all social media platforms, and take a look at feedmefuelme.com and let us know what you want us to cover, and we'll keep chipping away at that list. You can follow us on all social media platforms at feedmefuelme, and make sure you check us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and give us that 5-star rating. And please leave comments. Let us know how we're doing and what we can do better. And we'll keep it rocking. Thanks for letting us join you on your journey.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
And that's a wrap. We really hope you enjoyed this episode with our special guest, Caitlin Barth. If you want to connect with Caitlin and us, please go check out the full show notes at feedmefuelme.com. Also, be sure to connect with us on social media, including Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter at feedmefuelme. We would love to hear from each and every one of you. If you found this episode inspiring in any way, please rate, comment, share, and subscribe so we can continue on this journey together. Also, be sure to share it with your friends and family on social media, including Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter, or any other social platforms that you use. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today and allowing us to join you on your journey. We would love to hear your feedback on this episode, as well as guests and topics for future episodes. To end this episode, we would love to leave you with a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Never be afraid to do what's right, especially if the well-being of a person or animal is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul when we look the other way. Thank you again, and we will catch you on the next episode.